And we are back.
We are back, bumblebees.
I have no idea what episode this is, but this is a Ruminations and Revelations conversation about stories. We tried to record this once and the audio failed, so we have to start over again. I'm going to preface this by just saying that, give you guys just a little bit of information real quick. The reason why we didn't record this a month ago when we talked about recording it is because once we record these things, the information doesn't feel authentic anymore because we've already hashed out all of our thoughts on the whole process and it's different. So we've given ourselves time to forget about the conversation that we had so that we can have an organic conversation with you guys about stories. Two books that are relative here, Crucial Conversations. I don't know who the author is. It's a red book with white writing on it. Talks about the stories from a victim, villain, and helpless mindset. So whenever you tell yourself a story, you're either the victim, you're either the villain, or you're helpless. Mm-hmm. Or when other things happen to you in life, you can become the victim, they can become the villain, or you're helpless. And they talk about that at length. So I recommend reading that book.
Those stories also often coincide.
Right. So right. Because in order for you to be the victim, someone else has to be the villain. Right. Yeah. And the helplessness aspect of things does kind of make you a victim too, because life is happening to you and you have no control.
Right.
You know, I need this job. Therefore I have to, blah, blah, blah. Right. The other thing was John Deloney's book, Own Your Past, Change Your Future, is a book where he talks about stories being past, present, and future. So if you tell yourself a story and you respond to a situation because your cognitive bias dictates you handle things because of your past, right? That's your past story infiltrating your current situation, moving on. If you have a goal for something and something happens, your future story may dictate the way that things play out because of the things that you're telling yourself, because your perception of situations matter, right? So now that we've prefaced that entire thing, I'm going to give you one example, and then we're going to go right into our thought processes. If you walk into a room and you're having a bad day and everybody's laughing when you walk in the room and you're like, what are you guys laughing at? And everybody stops and you're like, oh, nothing. What's up? You have a negative attitude. Your demeanor is clearly not good. You may take that as them talking shit about you. They're laughing at you instead of at what they saw on the Burt Kreischer comedy special last night. You have no fucking idea, but that's the way you take it. Mm-hmm. You made yourself a victim in that moment, and they're all the villains based off of your right now story and your past story. However, if you're having a good day and you walk into a room and everyone's laughing and you start smiling and you're kind of, chuckling with them and you're upbeat and you're like, oh, what are you guys laughing at? And they repeat the story and you all laugh about it. It's because of you. It's because of the way that you perceive the situation. Your stories dictate your life. So we've talked about this quite a bit, and we've brought it into podcast, and we've talked about the stories that we tell ourselves. And I've wanted to make this because just those two situations while reading those books hit me hard. I had to pause it. I had to really think about what was going on there, because we're all guilty of this. And we talk so heavily about the victim mindset and the victim mentality. And like, that's been a huge part of our podcast for the last year. And in the entire time, I never made it about villains. I've never talked about other people being the villain, because you're not responsible for them.
Right.
You're only responsible for you. So if somebody is actually the villain to you, and that's their life experience, or your life experience with them is that they're the evil villain, and you're still a part of their story and you're allowing that to be the case, why? How are you going to change your story? Because you can't change theirs. So that's been kind of the shift of where we've been going over the last couple months, is that you can't change other people's perspectives. You can't change their behavior patterns. You can only try to guide with communication and trying to be helpful. Mm-hmm. But at some point you have to cut the cord and be like, this isn't conducive to my peace and happiness. Hey guys, thanks for joining us today on this special episode of Stories. This is a rare bonus release. I know that it's Sunday and you guys normally get live streams tonight, but we would like to invite you back tonight because we will be going live with Lauren the Mortician at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Join us there. Yes, join us there. You were with me when we were listening to that John Deloney book, because that was the third time that I made it through that book. We were driving back from Tennessee. Mm-hmm. And we had a couple conversations with that. Were there any things in that book that's pertinent to the story informations that like really stood out to you?
I'm going to be honest. I really don't remember anything from the audiobook. What I remember is the few pages that you had me read the first time we did this. And the things that really stood out to me is the fact that it happens in milliseconds, the storytelling. milliseconds.
Yeah.
Like you see something, you process it, and you already have a 10-page story in your brain about what is going on. The helpless, don't take offense to this, is the mindset that really pissed me off the most.
Okay.
And of course, people don't know how to live life one way if they've only lived life a certain way.
Right.
If you took me into the mountains of China and said, okay, figure out how to get a water source and you have to build yourself a shelter,
You'd be helpless.
I'd be totally helpless. So that's exactly what like those people are going through. The mindset pisses me off so much because you're a fucking human being. Like the human being is capable of such amazing things. We have computers in our brains. Like we have an organic computer all to ourselves. And we are able to take in data and process it and formulate our own thoughts and our own opinions. We have free will. We're able to get up and leave a room if we want to. We can leave a state if we want to. We can go to a different country if we want to. And that mindset just restricts us down to a baby owl that's fallen out of its nest. And I don't want to say it's easy to get out of that mindset because change is always hard. Once you learn to ride a bike, it's easy.
Mm-hmm.
Getting out of that mindset, once you're past the fear of being wrong or being seen as a piece of shit human being or whatever the case may be, whatever's holding you in that thought process, getting over that speed bump, all of it is easy after that. And it really is just a speed bump. You're not looking at Mount Everest here. You're looking at a little tiny speed bump that you can step over.
So knowing what we just laid out with all of that and how it happens in milliseconds, and you understand the victim, villain, and helpless, and then you understand the past, present, and future stories that we tell ourselves, right?
Right.
When somebody comes to you with something and you don't understand and you immediately perceive a story in your mind and you don't stop to reflect or stop to go, wait a minute, I didn't quite understand. What did you mean by that? Can you repeat it? Mm-hmm. Let's have a conversation about that. Why do you feel that way? Like, you don't probe to really find out what's going on, and you just accept the story that you tell yourself in those milliseconds. You wonder why you are not able to communicate with your person, right? Everything's a fucking problem. Everything's a fight. It could be that you perceive that the conversations are pointless and they're not going to go anywhere. Go ahead, get it out. So you have those moments where you're not going to have a conversation because you already know the outcome. You don't know the outcome. You know the story that you're telling yourself.
Right.
And then you're going to tell yourself a whole bunch of other stories, and you're going to go into this conversation with this predetermined outcome, and you're going to dominate the conversation because you already know how it's going to go.
Oh, I was so good at that.
Right? So now you want to have a conversation where you're hoping for a different outcome, but every time a reply is had, or a rebuttal if you want to call it that, you have that preconceived notion of this isn't going well. Mm-hmm. So then it becomes an elevated conversation, and the story becomes they don't listen. I just have to repeat myself. They're the problem, blah, 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 blah. Instead of going, okay, this is what's going on. They say something. You take a minute to process what they fucking said. And then if you start to feel a certain way about it, reflecting on that and then asking them, well, why did you word it that way? Mm-hmm. Do you actually feel like because that statement made me feel like, right? Because now there's a dialogue being happened and the predetermined conversation is not being had. If I came to you and I knew that like, I was going to say something and you were going to get upset. And I worked through my head how I'm going to say it to not make you upset, still fearing you're going to get upset, and then start going, well, if she says this, I'm going to say that. And if she says this, I'm going to say that. And then when the conversation happens, I say what I have to say. You don't say those things, but I respond to those things anyways. Now we're having a conversation that's not being had. And I'm projecting my fears and my feelings onto you, even though you don't feel that way, because I've already had this conversation 1,000 times in my brain because of the stories that I'm telling myself. How is that going to ever end up in a successful resolution of whatever is going on?
It's not.
So how do we work past those moments? How do we start training ourselves to not tell ourselves those stories?
Okay. So I am somebody who I still do this at times, and I have to catch myself. I'm like, am I overthinking or am I processing and I'm trying to find a solution? That was the first step of me not planning conversations. I grew up in an environment where there weren't conversations. It was always talking at, right?
Okay.
To whomever it was coming from in the house. That was the environment. And once text messaging became a thing, it went from verbal talking to 9-paragraph long text messages and then ending it with, but it doesn't matter, so don't worry about it. So now there's not even a chance to respond to the things that were just said. Everything's laid out and I'm done with the conversation. I don't care what you have to say.
That's the perfect example of that though, right?
It is, yeah.
Okay. Because that right there is exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
You've got that predetermined outcome.
Yeah.
And then with a text message where they can't respond in the moment, you've just given the outcome to the other person. And like, it doesn't matter. It is what it is.
Fully dominated.
Right. At that point, why even respond?
Yeah.
Okay. That really just is encompassing to what we're talking about.
Yeah. It is possible to do it through text messages, as we just laid out. In moments like that, it was always a fight or flight response. It was never, for me personally, it was never a malicious thing. It was always, clearly I don't have a voice, so now I need to learn how to dominate. I've destroyed a lot of relationships doing that. I have burned bridges doing that. I would say the biggest moment for me in recognizing that it's possible to have a conversation without getting like that was, I can't remember what instance it was. It was with you. I said something to you and I was worried that you were going to get mad. I had the whole conversation planned. This was through text message. We were still courting at this point. And it took me like 3 days and I planned out the whole conversation. I was like, what if he says this and I'll say this? And then if he says that, I'll say that. Like I had 3 answers ready for every possibility you could hit me with. And I texted you and you responded back totally left field, nothing I ever expected. And I was fully prepared to just continue the conversation going. Like you brought up something that was not a part of the conversation, but it had influence on the conversation. And I completely ignored it. I was like, no, this is what we're focusing on. In my mind, I didn't text you that because my man would have left. Crazy. But I took a second, like you said, taking the second. I took a second and I deep breathed and I looked at the text message and I was like, he's never done this to me.
Yeah, we've had those conversations too.
Yeah. And that was a moment where I was like, I really don't want to chase off this guy. Oh, I'm going to start crying. It doesn't matter. I guess I had something that was worth losing.
Yeah.
Or not worth losing. It was more than that, though. Like, I knew, and I still know that you are a very special human being.
I think you're a very special human being too, babe. So let's touch on that.
Okay.
And it's not really relevant, but we've had a lot of those conversations where you have said things to me and I've had to stop and go, babe, have I ever done that to you?
Right.
And you're like, no. And I'm like, and then you're like, but, and I'm like, but nothing. Have I ever been the cause of what you're feeling right now? And in those moments, there's 2 things that are happening. It's letting you know that I'm not that person. And it's letting me know that you have experienced those things. So though I have not been the cause of it, this is a very valid thing for you to be feeling right now. And we have to understand that this is not an us problem.
Right.
This is something that you have to work through, and I need to be aware that you're working through it, right? So that's very beneficial. And it's not I didn't do that, fuck you, right? Because that's also a very different story being told. That also ties into the defensiveness, right? Because all of us get defensive. When somebody comes at you sideways, it is your natural reaction to defend yourself. When you say, why do you feel that way? That changes the entire conversation, right? Because normally it's going to disarm the person that is coming at you. It's going to let them know that they feel validated, and it's going to take it so that you're not being defensive. And this is one of the hardest things for me to do as a person. When you come to me with a problem, my logic brain thinking is to try to find the root of the problem and then figure out a way to fix it so that there's not a conflict. Sometimes you don't want conflict resolution. Sometimes you want me to know that just that moment that you were hurt by the thing that I said or did. Knowing that you're hurt because of something I said or did fucking sucks. So now I want to justify, well, this is why I said what I said, and now that I know that you feel that way, I'm not going to do that anymore. None of that really matters. What matters in the moment is you want to feel heard, that what I did bothered you and upset you, and you want me to know that you're hurting. Why do you feel that way? Well, this, well, now that changes the story from you wanting me to know that you're hurting to me understanding why you're hurting so that these things don't happen again. Mm-hmm. And it changes. And that for me was the biggest thing, because I realized that, and this actually transfers back to a childhood scenario where I remember thinking, like, why do you do this? Like, why is this always a thing for you to another person in my life? And I asked that, why do you always do this? And it just made everything worse, because I made them have to reflect on who they are and the way they do things. And how dare this child put me in that fucking position, right? And it created a whole lot of thing for me. So for me to be able to ask that question in a vulnerable moment where we are trying to hash out something that's going in our lives is a me problem. But I still need to be able to overcome that and ask you that, because my stories don't dictate yours. Mm-hmm. There's a deeper level of understanding in your person when you realize that everything is not an attack.
Yeah, and almost a lot of things. I would say, speaking on us, not speaking to the general public, speaking on us, whenever something does happen that hurts the other, or we're in a disruption and like a perspective is not being heard, it's never from a place of malice.
No.
Like, one of us is being triggered right now. We are living with PTSD in this moment. We are not seeing things for right now. We are simultaneously living in this moment and living in the past.
Right.
And I think a lot more people need to reevaluate how their partner reacts to them and really think, is this my partner, or are they having like Vietnam flashbacks right now? And that's not a joke. That is like, I'm being serious.
It's trauma. It's unresolved trauma and lived life experiences, and the fear of it happening again.
Yeah.
It's very real.
We never get mad at each other in those moments.
No.
Like, there might be frustration.
There's definitely frustration because we want it to stop.
Right. Like, on both ends. There's frustration on both ends, because how do you navigate something from one person's specific past without even knowing what happened in that actual moment?
Yep.
It's a lot. It's so much. That's where grace comes in. I would learn. Okay, so first, recognize that the person never did it to you. They've never reacted that way. Why would they all of a sudden do it with this one situation? 2, learn what grace is and start having it with yourself. If you can't have grace with yourself, you cannot have it for somebody that you claim to love.
So on the topic of all of that, in that we were talking about the malicious intent and your partner responding in a way that is unlike them, mm-hmm. You have to ask yourself in the moment, has this person ever done anything intentionally to hurt me?
Yes.
Right? Because if your person has never gone out of their way to like be hurtful in a joking manner, mm-hmm. because that's intentful, or to throw shade or spit on you or throw you around or whatever the case may be, if they have never done anything intentionally to hurt you, mm-hmm. the question in that moment is, have they done anything ever to intentionally hurt me? And if the answer is no, is that happening right now? Mm-hmm. And the likelihood of that is usually no, because if your person loves you, the reality is them intentionally trying to harm you or hurt your feelings is not a thing, unless they're just vengeful, spiteful people, which leads me to my next point. If the answer to that is yes, the next question is not how do I negate this? It's why am I still here?
Yeah.
Why am I investing and pouring myself into another person who has malicious intent towards me? You're not emotionally safe, you're not spiritually safe, and you're not physically safe. If somebody is intentionally trying to harm you in any way, shape, or form, that is the biggest red flag that you will ever get, because that's not love. Love does not do those things. People who love things do not destroy them. And if you're like, well, he loves me. Well, does he love something else in his life? Does he love his car? Does he love his PlayStation? Has he ever taken a bat to either one of those things? Has he ever punched the dashboard of his car because he's angry? No, because he loves his car. It's not love. Mm-hmm. You're a placeholder, or you are beneath these other things, or you're beneath it to him, and he knows that you're just going to take it, or her, because women fucking come after men quite a bit. Yeah. Domestic violence cases right now are higher from women than they are from men.
I believe that.
It is. And it's part of it is to men, but part of it is also because of lesbian relationships. In that community, lesbian relationships actually have the highest rate of domestic violence in all relationships.
Wow.
Yep. That's not really relevant. Because I was using a man's explanation there, because I'm a man, I'm speaking for me. So that's a lot to process too, because in those moments we tell ourselves stories, right? And it could be well, he loves me, so I'm just going to take this. or he's just angry right now, so I'm going to take this. Like we have those predetermined stories, and never do we take those stories from a place of love and from internal. I really processed all of those story statements a lot. And like every time we read an email, like I'm looking for the story that the person's telling themselves now to understand what they're going through. And sometimes I'm able to figure it out, and sometimes I just don't get it because I'm not living in that experience. But I think that understanding that people tell themselves the stories that quickly has allowed me to have grace and allowed me to pull back a little bit, like, hey, what's going on right now? Because your stories have nothing to do with me. Your stories,
Right.
even if they are of me, are your stories. When I've had to ask you, like, did I ever do that to you? And you're like, no. I'm like, well, the stories you're telling yourself right now are a you problem. That doesn't mean that I'd be like, you don't get to do that. I never did that to you. It's me being understanding that you're going through something right now. And though you may view me as the problem, you just admitted that I'm not. So I need to be supportive, and we can talk through these things and work through them versus being combative towards each other, because that's not positive conflict resolution.
I love that you're patient with me.
I love that I have patience, right? Because I'm a very impatient person on a lot of things.
Yeah.
And I don't even think it's patience, because it's not, it's understanding. I'm not patient. Like when you're going through your shit and it's taking 45 minutes, I'm like, come on. Like, let's get this done, babe. You got this. Like we got 5 minutes. Come on, go, you know?
I think if you actually did that in those moments, it would help.
I don't. I think you'd get mad as fuck.
No, I don't think so.
There's a story.
I need that pullback to reality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think that, I mean, obviously that's not always the case. There are times where I was like, come on, like we need to get through this. This is definitely a you problem, and I've done nothing here, but
it's not said in a joking manner.
yeah, I don't want disruptions to last all day, and I don't want you to be in your feelings and upset by things, especially if they were something that's perceived as a me problem. But if we don't have those discussions and you hold on to those stories, the resentment's going to start, and you're going to start blaming me for things that I had nothing to do with, and I'm going to pay the sins of others because of it.
It's so hard to have those conversations with you.
Why?
Because I feel like I'm crazy.
You know, the biggest thing that you do, and I know that it's you in the moment and not reality, and it is a story that you tell yourself, is that you say when you're super upset like that you feel like you can't talk to me. But you are talking to me, and we are working through those things. You know what I mean? And like we've worked through a lot of things that a lot of people never will. And we've had a lot of really in-depth conversations about shit. So I know that that's never the case. But when you say those things, that is the hardest thing for me not to get defensive about, because I do think I'm understanding. And like maybe that's my ego and like the belief that I've become this emotionally mature person. But I know that there are times still where I respond and I have to dial myself back. You know what I mean? But I also don't think that there's a lot of things that I need to come to you about, because when I get upset by something in the moment, I just address it and we move past. Like I don't allow myself to get really worked up. There's not a lot of things that are super prevalent that I think are like long-term problems.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if I feel something about something a certain way, like you say, I'll make a mental note of it, and it happens again, we'll have a quick discussion about it, and then I'm moving on. I'm not going to dwell on it. But that's me staying in my logic brain thinking, because I know if I go emotional brain, I'll become a mess. And like, I don't want to have that kind of outcome.
I just had a realization.
What's that?
You just said, okay, this is a lot. You just said that you'll address the things in the moment and just move past it. I just recognized that there are things that I think might be like too minuscule to have a conversation about, because in the grand scheme of your life, you're not worried about how towels are folded.
Mm-hmm.
When I have like an episode or a meltdown, I think it's because I'm letting things that I don't remember things. I remember how they make me feel.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I learned that from you. Like there's no point on holding on to shit. So I forget things, but I remember how they make me feel. And how do I have a conversation with you about how something made me feel when I don't remember what it was?
Right. Well, it's just you address it in the moment. Like, hey, I don't like that. Okay, cool. I won't do that again. Right? Like it is really that simple.
Right. But what if it's not what you did? What if I just remembered the feeling?
Well, that's a you problem.
Right. Like I can't talk to you about that.
So that comes down to either you not having resolution from things in the past, or not talking about it in the past. Because like I said, there are times where like I'll make a mental note, I didn't like that. And then the next time it comes up, be like, yeah, I still don't like that.
Okay.
And then we'll have that discussion.
Right.
But if you don't remember what it was, and you just have a feeling of I don't like that, and it's a strong feeling of I don't like that, and you can't figure out why, that's a different discussion.
Like how do I even bring that up to you? Like, I have a feeling if I don't like that, what don't you like? I don't know. Like, we can't resolve that.
No, but we can explore it.
Yeah.
We can explore it, you know, and I can therapist you. Well, why do you feel that way?
Oh, I feel like I use you a lot as a therapist.
Where did that come from? You know, we do that though, and that's important because we get to the root of those stories and we have a deeper understanding of each other.
Right.
In episode 7 of season 2, the what if conversation email is very prevalent. We have to have the what if conversations.
Yeah.
The deeper my understanding of the way your brain works, the less problems we're going to have. Because in the moment I can correct my behavior, right? Because like if we've had a discussion about something and I do something and I'm like, ding, 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 hey dumbass, don't do that. I can be like, whoa, wait, I mean we, right? Could be a very simple thing. And for those of you who don't get that, I make I statements a lot when it should be we. And it's because I focus on my responsibilities, and because they're my responsibilities, the outcome of everything is an I thing. And I understand that from you, that's not ever what you meant. So when we've had that conversation, I know that regardless of the reasoning behind everything, I have to stop saying I and start saying we. We've had this discussion quite a bit. So, and even in having that conversation, me explaining to you the reason why I say I so much didn't validate the feelings that you were having. And therefore we had to have the conversation a few times, because I will say things like I left a $200 tip, and you're like, no, we left a $200 tip. And I understand that you wanted that victory and like you wanted to feel a part of it, right? Because I didn't do that. We did that. It's our money. We built this empire. Like it is we, but I handle the finances. So if something goes wrong, it's a me problem. So I fucked up our finances, not we fucked up our finances. And that's where I have to find that line, right? So I do have to correct my I statements in the moment and say we. And I've gotten to the point where now I have to correct my we statements and say I, because I am trying to not have you feel like that in the moment. And while we were having that discussion, and I'm going to use the tip thing as an example, I told you that I don't care if you took credit for the tip and we gave it. That doesn't matter to me. And you said, well, you don't get it. I want to feel like I'm a part of it. And I'm like, then do it, babe. Like, go give those things, because to me, this doesn't matter. And it's not that this is stupid. I'm not downplaying your want to do those things. I'm letting you know that it can be a we, or it could be a you, or it could be a me. I don't care how any of this plays out. I want you to be happy. I want to continue doing the things that we're doing. So if I have to make minor changes to be it, so what? And like that frustrates you, because my thought process on it is that it doesn't matter, and to you it does. So, and even me having that explanation to you is not the explanation that you're looking for. You want me to understand what you're feeling. And though in that moment I did understand what you were feeling and I addressed it and then gave you another, like, you can have the full victory if you want, I don't care. That bothers you because you feel it has perceived, I have perceived that as a problem to you, because it's not what you want. You want it to be an us thing. So, and I get all of that, but the whole point of all of that is like sometimes the story behind it is more prevalent than what's actually being said and going on, because we want that feeling to matter in the moment. I hope all of that made sense, because that was a very vague scenario of a conversation that we've had multiple times.
Yeah.
But, you know, and this also comes down to the things that matter. If it matters to your person, it's not stupid because it matters to them. It may feel stupid to you because to you, those things don't matter. So in those situations, do you just say, okay, I'll make sure to say we and drop it because there's not really a point in having a conversation? Or do you have the conversation to try to make them understand that to you, it doesn't matter? Like, it's not a priority. These things are side quests in life. I'm focused on the main mission. So like, if I'm not holding my sword correctly, just show me how to hold my sword so that we can move past it. Do you think that that is a problem for people communicating?
Yes.
Okay.
Because the conversation that you're referencing, I like logically I understood what you meant. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. But the way that you just laid that out, I now fully understand what you meant.
Right. Well, this is now the 4th time we've had this conversation.
Right. It is. It is the 4th time we've had this conversation, and now I understand you even better.
Right.
You're right. That I do want it to be an us thing.
Right.
I don't. We did this together. I'm gonna start fucking crying again. I fucking hate this. I don't want any victory that was achieved by both of our hard work to go to either one of us solely.
Yeah.
I don't want to take the credit for all of anything, because I know how it feels to be left out on a super dope victory when you put work into it. So I would never, not that you did it on purpose. I'm not
Right.
saying he did it on purpose. I'm just explaining my point of view of I would never do that to you because I know you already feel like a fucking sidekick. I'm not gonna.
Right. Okay. So let's talk about that. Cause I actually, I disagree. I agree. I actually agree with everything that you just said, but there's a part of me that I want to lift you up.
Right.
So if you were the shining star in all of this,
Mm-hmm.
dope, because I get to lift my woman up and be supportive and do those things. I don't care if you take all the victories. The issue that I have with the sidekick thing, and this has been a very big conversation for us for the last few months, is that everything that we see on the internet is peaches, 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 peaches. People fucking worship you. And I don't want to be worshiped. I want acknowledgement, right? Like I don't need to be, Chris, you're so amazing. You're the greatest husband ever. I love your relationship. I don't need any of that. I just want recognition for my hard work, right? So like, I can see the difference that you've made in yourself over a year. Like that would mean way more to me than you're a great husband. I know I'm a great husband. I don't need you guys to tell me that shit. My marriage is thriving. I don't need that from you guys. That sidekick thing came from a place of envy because people are worshiping you on the internet and flirting with you and telling you you're beautiful and how attractive you are and all of that shit. And there was a part of me that was like, I was cheerleading the whole time and like I was feeling really good about it because you're getting all that recognition. But there was a part of me that was like, damn, like, do I even fucking matter to any of this? I know that I matter to this because I know that if it wasn't for me, none of this would exist. I do a lot behind the scenes. Do I need that recognition of what's going on behind the scenes? No. Should I be grateful that you're in the limelight and that people are worshiping you? Absolutely, because that's kind of what we're doing. Like we are internet personalities. That type of attention should be expected and praised, right? Like we're doing the thing. But there was a part of me that was salty about it because I want recognition. I don't want to feel like I don't matter in this. Like we created this podcast of us sharing our opinions. And if my opinions are invalid and everybody's just hating on me and telling me that I'm controlling and that I'm a narcissist and that I abuse you and that I'm a piece of shit husband, and like, you know, we've seen things go as far as to say that like, anyways, so all of that, it became more focused on the negative aspects of our lives while watching everyone praise you. And like, it affected me. That was a me problem.
You want to hear something crazy?
What?
I felt, still kind of do, I'm working on it, the same way, but in reverse.
What do you mean?
There are so many people in the comments going, fuck, Chris, you nailed that. Like, great opinion. You're so intelligent. Like,
see, I don't see that though.
I see it. Almost every single TikTok that's posted on the account. And very rarely do I see the same thing unless I'm shitting on feminists or I'm overly emotional or I'm crying. It's never like, oh my God, Peaches, you're so smart.
Yeah.
I appreciate that people like looking at me, I guess. My intelligence to me is so much more important than my appearance.
All of this stemmed from the life account. My sidekick shit stemmed from the life account. It really did.
Yeah.
Like the podcast, I don't read the podcast comments. I will scroll through every once in a while when I'm really bored and look for something just to create drama.
Yeah.
Or like respond to a video and be an asshole because I enjoy doing that from time to time. But I read the life account. I read every fucking comment on every video of the life account. Unless it's like a week old. I'm not going back to old shit unless it's relevant in my feed. I don't see those. But like I'll post a video and for the next 3 days I'll go to that video. Or until there's 2 or 3 videos posted. Like I'm not looking anymore past that. But it became apparent to me that the amount of people that follow you because they want to be you or because they have this obsession with the woman that you are or the way that you look, like it got to me. And I don't want to be a sex object. I know that like I'm white hair, wrinkles, bald head. Like I know that I'm not like the hot shit. So I don't crave that. But to see you get it and have people fawning over you like that, part of that was a fuck you to me, right? Because you're my woman.
Right, there's no respect.
Right. So like, and there are times where people are very respectful about it.
Oh yeah, they
and
are.
I love that shit. And I love it when people lift you up. But to see the men going, you're so lucky to me, like, fuck you, bro. Don't tell me I'm lucky. There's no luck here. There's a lot of work and a lot of fucking dedication to my wife to have the things that I have. There is no luck. If this was luck, you wouldn't be here.
This is hard work.
Right. This whole thing is hard work. Our marriage is hard work. There's no luck involved. Maybe there was luck in the way that like we came into each other's lives. Maybe, but I don't believe that's the case either. I believe that's divine. So that kind of shit gets to me too. But like that sidekick thing was a story that I was telling myself. That was a problem for me.
Yeah.
But that was a me problem. And like I did, there's a term for it when you make offhanded comments that nobody else understands, but the person that it's directed towards. I did that once during poker and felt like shit over it because I was trying to be funny in the moment. And the moment it came out of my mouth, I was like, that wasn't funny. I shouldn't have said that. And then you looked at me and I was like, yeah, I really shouldn't have fucking said that. But I was going through a depression and I was all excuses, right? And it's all stories and it was wrong behavior and I can justify it however I want to justify it in the way that I was feeling. It doesn't change the fact that it happened and I have to address that and then work on being better moving forward. Too many people get caught up in the, well, you know, this is why I did this and this is why I did that. Those are excuses. They could be valid excuses. They could be reasons to you. Doesn't justify your behavior if your behavior was wrong. You know what I mean? Like, so.
Can I ask a favor of you?
What?
So that night at poker that you did that kind of ruined my night.
I know
Like,
it did.
It fucked me up. And you didn't say anything about it.
We talked about it.
Did we?
Yep.
I don't remember that.
We talked about it. Talked about it afterwards when everybody left. Yep.
What did we say?
I don't remember the exact conversation, but I apologize for it. It may not have been a very long conversation. I may have just apologized, like, hey, you didn't deserve that kind of thing. But
Okay, no, I do remember that because that's why I never brought it up. Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes we don't have to have those conversations. I can tell when I fucked up. Like, I can tell when I've hurt you.
Right, but to know that you fucked up is nice. Like,
well, that's
not
why
to have it
if I
ignored.
apologize to you, that's from a
Yeah.
place of I know and remorse. I don't
Right.
apologize to apologize.
I know.
I got to be honest. There's a lot of times that people may deserve an apology from me and they're not going to get it.
Yeah.
Because if I don't have remorse, I'm not saying I'm sorry. You can get
I
fucked,
agree.
right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, if I address something after the fact, it's because there's a real, it's genuine, right? If you come to me about it and I apologize afterwards, you'll never know if it's genuine or not.
Right.
Unless you know that I didn't realize it happened. But we know each other so well that we can
Right.
finish each other's sentences and we share thoughts. Like we had
Spooky.
there's a whole thing there. So but that matters. Like if I did
does.
something like that and I didn't know that I did it and you came to me about it and afterwards it's like, damn, I didn't realize I did it. I'm sorry. Like that's a different conversation than, well, I didn't mean it
Right.
that way. You took it that way. Because that's a shitty thing to do as well. Like that's not what you're looking for in the moment. You want to be heard. I understand that. And though I can be the victim and get salty about it and try to blame you for the way that you feel, I can't control the way that you feel. I can control
Right.
my actions, and the way that you choose to respond to those is a you problem. And I could tell you that in the moment, but what is that going to do?
Right.
It's not going to make you feel validated. It's not going to let you know that I know that you were hurt from whatever the action was. If I just accept the fact that my actions were fucked up and we move past that, is that really a bad thing?
No.
It doesn't feel like I'm winning if we get
Right.
into a big fucking argument about it and we both go to bed salty towards each other. Like we go to bed not angry, but still kind of like processing.
Yeah.
That's not a good feeling. I don't want to feel that way. I'd rather just fucking be like, yo, that was not my intent.
Right.
I won't do that shit again. We can go fucking cuddle on the couch now. I'd
So-
rather have resolution than conflict.
Yeah. Me too. So a lot just happened for me. One, you brought that up the poker night and making that offhanded comment in the sidekick triggered that feeling in me. That's why I brought it up. Also, you apologized, which explains why I forgot that we even had a conversation because I forgot that instance
Right.
until you brought it up. So that's first
That's
thing.
two, right.
That's two, right? Third thing, I said, can you do me a favor? And I was going to lead into when moments like that happen, can you just apologize in the, like either in the moment or after the fact, like everybody leaves, just so I know that you know it did a thing, which you did, right? But that's three things just happened in seconds. So let's review. One, you apologize the same day about what happened. You recognize that it hurt my feelings and you apologize. Now that we talked about it, I do remember that conversation. I felt very touched in that moment. I was like, he knew.
Okay.
He recognized and he apologized. And that was a big moment for me that day. You apologized and I completely fucking forgot the instance. I did not harbor it. I was not like, fuck him, even though he apologized. He should have never done that. Two, I recognize it invoked an emotion in me, kind of like falling out of a helicopter. And I brought it up, not holding it in.
Right.
And then three, I was just gonna be like, hey, can you just not, like, can you do that next time? just so that this doesn't keep happening, because I identified the emotion. I don't like this emotion. I know you don't like it when you hurt me. Solutions. To a solution that's already had.
Yeah. How about the fact that you started to bring it up and like before you could really explain what you needed from me, I already
You already
addressed
knew,
it.
yeah.
Because I knew.
You
right?
knew, yeah.
It's because I'm aware of what's going on. I don't tell myself stories. I read the room. I pay attention to you. I want you to be happy. And I don't want, see, this comes into the malicious intent. I have never done anything to you maliciously. I've never called you a name that wasn't sexual, right? And I say that because sometimes those can be kind of derogatory. It's fun. It's consensual.
I love it.
Okay. But I have never done anything out of spite to hurt you. And I
Right.
don't want to ever have any of my actions be perceived as such. So the moment I know something happens may make you off and I perceive you as angry at me or not having a good day or however I perceive that, I will address it as quickly as I can. I won't address it in front of people. You might get a text message or I may
Yeah.
pull you off to the side or it may wait until the evening's over when I can talk to you because we need to have a conversation that doesn't involve other ears because their lives are not a part of ours.
Right.
But I don't want anything to ever be misconstrued as malicious intent from me to you. So in the event that in the future something happens and you're like, hey, what the fuck? I can ask you, have I ever done anything maliciously to you? And you're going to go, no. And I'm like, okay, well, that wasn't malicious.
Right.
That's not how I operate. And if it was malicious, I'm sorry. Like, you know what I mean? Sometimes you're going to get my demons. It happens.
Yeah.
But it's never me. That's not taking accountability, right? So when I say that, there are going to be people who are like, oh, he just took the accountability right away from himself by saying it was his demons. That is a figure of speech. We have established communication between the two of us that when one of us responds to a certain situation in a certain manner, those are our trauma responses. Those are our demons. That is how we have chosen to articulate those moments so that we know what the other person's going through. That is not a lack of accountability. That is me and my wife having a conversation using predefined terminology. Get fucked.
Communication.
Right.
I also just recognized that there are times where like I'm really, really going through it. So this is a very specific instance. While we were in Tennessee, we were at your mom's house and we had just given the eldest nephew his bike and we were stepping outside and you looked at me, you're like, you're okay? Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, yeah, I'm okay. No, I wasn't okay.
I know
knew.
you weren't.
I know you knew. I know you knew. In moments like that, I say that because I'm getting ready to cry. And it's not me trying to like shut you out or like play like everything's okay. Like I know you know something's going on. And just me talking about it has me crying. So when I say I'm okay, that's me literally just trying to keep it together. If you already knew that, dope. I just wanted to make sure that you knew that like I'm not, it's not that I don't trust you with my emotions in that moment or.
For me, those moments, one of the things that I need from you is to know that it's not me.
Okay.
Because there are times that like, it's me and we need to have those conversations. We can go sit in the van and have those conversations. Like if we're somewhere else. But when I ask you those things, it's a genuine concern for your safety. Like, are you okay? I want to know that you're good. And then the other question of that is, did I do something wrong? And that's the underlying question there, because if I did do something wrong, I can't correct the problem if I don't know what it is.
Right.
So having those I'm okay moments are fine as long as life continues. But
Which
if you,
it did.
But if you become standoffish and you recluse from everyone and you are the black cloud in the room, the storm cloud in the room, like that becomes a problem. So
Do I do that a lot?
no, I'm saying that
Okay.
for everyone else, like that's a problem for people. If we were out doing something and you were off and I could tell that you were off and no one else could tell, it's still going to ruin the entire experience.
Right.
Because the whole time that we're there, I know that you're not right. And I'm now problem solving in my head, running through everything that I've said, running through my actions, running through if I've touched anyone or, you know, what could I have possibly done to make her go through this? And it could be something that triggered a memory in you that has nothing to do with anything. So knowing that it's not me in those moments and that we're going to talk about it later is enough, because then
Okay.
I can be a whole lot more supportive because I'm not going to sit there dwelling on me and what did I do wrong. But that's also a me problem. That's not a you problem.
Right.
That's my storytelling. So
Okay. I just don't want you to think like I'm lying to you or trying to pull the wool over your eyes. And
no, I know when you're not right.
I know.
Otherwise I wouldn't ask.
Right. Um,
I'm not one of those people who are like, are you okay? Are you okay?
right.
Like, I know when you're not okay. I'm not going to ask that if you are, you know?
Yeah, I pay attention to I call them cues.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's typically when I ask, like, you okay? Something going on?
Well, this is not where I intended for this to go, but we do have to wrap this up because I have to leave in 10 minutes.
We got things to do, yeah.
Yep.
Life things.
Do you think this was a good conversation at least?
I really enjoyed this.
Okay.
Yeah. I think this was a good conversation.
Bonus content.
How'd you feel about the lipstick version of me?
I'm still adjusting to it.
Yeah.
I have been looking at your mouth the entire time.
Really?
I don't know.
Is it like
It's just different. You're not my wife. You're some other chick talking to me like you're my wife right now, because I haven't seen you in makeup in years. It's been years.
Yeah.
Like years.
Yeah.
So it's just very different. I would really like to see you in dark lipstick.
I have a lot. I bought a range.
Yeah.
I bought a range. Yeah. I even bought black.
I wouldn't want to see that.
Really?
Blacks, blues, and greens don't do it for me.
Really? Even with my white teeth?
Nope, no, because it's going to give them a tint.
It's not.
Yes, it will. Yes, it will. Every one of you goth chicks who wear dark colored lipstick, your teeth turn blue or green. It fucking gives them a tint. Light bounces off of it and it changes the color of your teeth.
Okay.
You may not realize it. You guys may not realize it. I fucking notice the shit. And
You're
it's
so
all
passionate.
I hate it.
I
It's
can
so
tell.
gross to me. I have a hard time with teeth anyways. And,
I know.
And like, I don't like my teeth. You know, one day I'm going to have enough money to yank all this shit and get dentures put in. And I will be fucking thrilled
Yeah.
after it happens. But I'm weird about mouths and I'm weird about teeth. So, but I like dark color. I think a dark colored lipstick with that porcelain skin would be the move.
Well, I bought like dark burgundies
Yeah.
and there's like a plum color.
Yep. Still reds, red bases. Well, there you go. Useless information that you guys didn't need to know. With that being said, guys, remember you are the author of your own life,
So grab a pen.
and we will see you on the next one.
Bye, guys.